Somewhere in your notes there's a pile of gold. Maybe it's under a dragon. Maybe it's in the vault beneath your wizard's tower. Or it's the spell on page 4 that turns lead into coin. However you wrote it down as a prize. Here's the uncomfortable part. You didn't write wealth, you wrote inflation. And if you put a dragon on top of it, you didn't write a monster, you wrote a central bank. Because gold isn't wealth, gold is a scoreboard. And your magic system just doubled everybody's score without adding one loaf of bread to your world. Give me 4 minutes and I'll prove it with the richest mine in human history, a mountain of solid silver that bankrupted the empire that owned it, while the silver was still coming out of the ground. I'm Owen, and I spend an unreasonable amount of time thinking about how imaginary worlds pay their bills. If you're the kind of world builder who has written a treasure hoard and never once asked what it did to the price of bread, subscribe, drop a like, and let me ruin your favorite dragon for you. In 1545, in what is now Bolivia, an Andean prospector called Diego Hualpa found a mountain that was more or less made of silver. The Spanish named it Cerro Rico, the Rich Hill. It is the largest silver strike in recorded history, and Spain took it outright. Think about what that is in your terms. Spain rolled a magic mountain. Infinite money, straight out of the ground, forever. So what would you write next? Golden Age, obviously. Best army in Europe, best fleet, the richest cities on the continent, a dynasty nobody can touch. Here's what actually happened. The crown that owned the richest mine on earth went bankrupt, and then it went bankrupt again. Under Philip II alone, the king with the silver mountain, Spain defaulted 4 times in about 40 years. Some historians count a 5th, and it kept happening long after he was dead. Read that twice, because it is the whole video. The most silver in the world, and they could not pay their bills. So why? Because they had more money, and nobody had more stuff. Silver poured into Seville, and the amount of wheat in Spain did not change. The number of houses did not change. The number of people who knew how to make a pair of boots did not change. When you double the coins and you don't double the bread, you don't get rich. You just need more coins for the same bread. Prices across Europe climbed hard through that century, and historians still argue about how much of it was the silver and how much was a growing population. But nobody serious argues the silver did nothing. And then the second thing happened, and this is the part your world needs. Spanish goods got expensive, so Spain stopped buying Spanish. Why pay a Castilian weaver when Flemish cloth costs less? The silver came in one door and went straight out the other, into the hands of Genoese bankers, Dutch shippers, and English wool merchants. Spain was not the customer. Spain was the pipe. And here's the detail that makes the whole thing click for a world builder. Potosi itself swelled until it was the second largest city on Earth, behind only London, and it sat 4,000 meters up in the Andes, higher than almost anything worth eating will grow. Every sack of grain, every plank, every barrel of wine had to be dragged up that mountain by mule and llama. So the richest city in the world could not feed itself. It had all of the money and none of the food, which meant it paid insane prices for both. And the people who quietly got rich were not the ones digging silver out of the hill. They were the ones hauling corn up it. So write that on your map somewhere. Whoever supplies your magic city ends up richer than your magic city. Who feeds yours? If you don't know, that's not a gap in your notes. That's the family who really runs your kingdom, and you haven't met them yet. Now hold your own map up next to that. What did you give your kingdom? If you wrote a mage who transmutes metal, or a vein of magic crystal, or a god who rains coin on the faithful, you have not made that kingdom strong. You have made it a pipe. Somebody outside your borders is quietly getting rich off your miracle. They are the most interesting faction on your map, and you have not named them yet. All right, let's run it the other way, because the reverse is even better. And it is already sitting in almost every fantasy world ever written. What happens when magic takes money out? That's your dragon. A dragon on a hoard is not a monster with a hobby. It is a central bank running the tightest monetary policy in history, and nobody voted for it. Every coin under that dragon is a coin not paying a mason, not buying seed, not funding a bridge. Pull enough coin out of a small economy and prices fall, which sounds lovely until you remember what falling prices do to debt. If you owe money and coin keeps getting scarcer, your debt gets heavier every year while you sleep. So the village beside the dragon isn't cowering, it's foreclosing. The blacksmith didn't lose his shop to a fire, he lost it to a loan. And if you run a table, you have already lived the other half of this and probably never noticed. Your party crawls out of the dungeon with 10,000 gold pieces and walks into a village of 400 people. That village does not contain 10,000 gold pieces. It doesn't hold a tenth of that in circulation. So what actually happens when they try to spend it? Either every price in town triples by morning, or somebody with a ledger and a private guard takes a keen interest in 4 strangers carrying a year of the village's entire output in a sack. Both of those are a better evening than you buy the plate armor. And that isn't invented either. Late medieval Europe genuinely ran short of coin, silver flowing east to pay for spices and silk and never coming back, mints going quiet for want of metal. At one point, the Tower of London was the only working mint left in northwestern Europe. It has a wonderfully boring name, the bullion famine. Same mechanism as your dragon, minus the wings. So, 2 directions, 1 idea. Make money faster than goods, and you get Spain. Take money out faster than goods, and you get the dragon. Either way, the thing that changed was never the gold. It was who could afford bread. And the writers who see this are already on your shelf. Spice and Wolf is an anime whose central arc is a coin debasement scheme. A merchant and a wolf god working out that somebody is quietly reducing the silver in the currency. Terry Pratchett wrote a whole Discworld novel called Making Money, whose joke is that the gold in the vault is irrelevant and everyone is terrified to say so. And Brandon Sanderson built Mistborn on metals that get burned up when you use them, which means metal has a price and a supply, which means his magic came with an economy attached whether or not anyone mentions it. Now, I know exactly what a lot of you are thinking. My world doesn't use gold. My people barter. My magic runs on memories or blood or crystals. You're right. And it doesn't get you out of it. It just renames the unit. Every society keeps score with something. If it isn't coin, it's grain or cattle or favors owed or hours of somebody's labor, or those crystals. And the question doesn't change. Is your magic making more of the scoreboard or less of it? Because whichever it does, somebody's savings just changed value while they were asleep, and they don't know yet. That's not a hole in your setting. That's the argument in the tavern in Chapter 2. So why do clever people write the hoard and never write the consequence? I think it's because we all met treasure as a reward, not as an economy. It's the chest at the end of the dungeon. A reward has to feel enormous, so you write an enormous number, and no game master alive has ever said, you open the chest and you have triggered a regional inflation event. And there's a gentler reason underneath. Gold is visible. A full granary is not. When you picture your world, wealth has to be something you can see, and a heap of coins looks better in your head than a good harvest. That instinct is exactly right for the scene, and exactly wrong for the notes underneath it. So, 5 things to do. All of them verbs, none of them needing a spreadsheet. 1. Name your scoreboard. 1 word at the top of the page. What does your world actually count wealth in? Coin, grain, favors, crystals? 2. Split the score from the stuff. 2 short lists. What your magic can conjure and what it can't. That second list is your real economy. Everything on the first list is just scorekeeping. 3. Follow the money out. When wealth flows into your kingdom, where does it flow next? Somebody abroad is getting rich off your miracle. Name them, name their city, and you have your next antagonist for free. 4. Ask who is sitting on it. Every hoard is a policy. Find whoever in your world is holding wealth and not spending it. A dragon, a temple, a bank, an old family, and work out who is quietly being ruined by that. Those are your rebels. 5. Break 1 price. Pick 1 ordinary thing. A loaf, a night's lodging, a decent sword. Write what it cost before your magic existed and what it cost now. 1 line. That single line will teach you more about your world than another month of drawing coastlines. Here's what I want you to walk away with. Your treasure room was never a reward. It's a monetary policy, and you wrote it by accident. Spain owned a mountain of silver and still went bankrupt 4 times in 40 years because the silver was never the wealth. The wheat was the wealth. The silver was only how they counted it. And counting harder has never grown anything. So tonight, go and find the biggest pile of gold in your notes and write 1 sentence underneath it. While this sits here, the price of bread is... and then finish it. That's the whole exercise. Watch what it does to your politics. Then tell me in the comments what your world keeps score with. I read them, and the good ones end up in videos. Next time, we're going after the thing holding up every siege you have ever written. Your fantasy city runs out of water in about 3 days, which means that 6-month siege in Chapter 12 never happened. I'm Owen. Go and find out what your gold is actually worth.